there's a lot of things that have changed in the market, and there's a lot going on in the space. Obviously, new money is getting into Bitcoin. There's just new money entering the space already. Okay. And never mind the current dip that we're seeing. I don't worry about those so much. That's just kind of the nature of things. And as institutions continue getting into the space, the narratives are going to change throughout. A lot of the stuff that we're going to see is going to be paid narratives, pumping this shit coin, pumping that shit coin, narratives around how this blockchain is better than that blockchain and all kinds of stuff. But the majority of that stuff is really garbage. What really matters is what happens with like the government, interest rates, the economy overall. That's really what's going to help dictate what's going on in the future of crypto, especially as we continue throughout 2024 in this election year. Things are obviously crazy already. They may very well get crazier, but how does that play into Bitcoin's narrative? We know that companies like BlackRock and a lot of these other companies out there, I don't even need to name all of them. There's like 14 or 15 different companies really piling into blockchain, okay? And they're really buying into a lot of these different assets. They may make their narratives primary to Bitcoin or Ethereum right now, but that's going to continue to grow. And the number of different blockchains that these groups start investing into and creating paper investment vehicles into are obviously going to grow. And a lot of them are going to grow based on fundamental use case and what these blockchains have to offer, as well as to some degree, how much some of these institutions want to control these blockchains, depending on how they operate and what they're doing in the world, which is one of the reasons why, unfortunately, I believe that it's likely we may see a Cardano spot ETF at some point. And I personally don't want one, but let's go ahead and dive into what we're looking at in terms of Bitcoin or Cardano's price prediction, because I think this may actually shock you a bit. It kind of shocked me because I didn't know what to expect working things up this way, but let's take a look given the recent numbers. Now, back here in 2017, we're going to look at this market cycle first to get an idea of what's going on. Bitcoin peaked on December 17th of 2017, and its dominance was sitting at 50.12%. over Cardano, which was just 2.02% at the time. And this was Cardano's first peak. This was Cardano's first big market cycle, okay? This was a period, there was a period from the time Bitcoin peaked to the time Cardano peaked, which was 18 days. Not much time at all. Bitcoin peaked right after in January. Cardano peaked along with the rest of the market. And this happened on January 4th of 2018, 19 days after Bitcoin peaked. And at this point, Bitcoin's dominance dropped from 50.12% to 37.89%, while Cardano rose in this period to 3.44%. Now, over the course of the market cycle, we saw Cardano and Bitcoin, as well as other altcoins in the market, kind of give us an ebb and flow of the price action. Now, just so that you understand as well, this is what I'm looking at for dominance numbers. So the first one I've looked up is Cardano, and you can see where Bitcoin's dominance was against Cardano in this chart. And this is provided by CoinGecko, which I'm really learning to appreciate quite a bit. So that's where I'm getting a lot of these statistics. Now, moving forward, in the 2021 market, Bitcoin peaked at 52.48%. This was in April 13th in the first peak of that market cycle, while Cardano was just at 2.02. This is years later, and Cardano rose up, which I'm going to show you. At one point, it rose up to as high as 4.25% in dominance, but that doesn't really matter right now. What matters right now is Bitcoin peaked at 52.48%, while Cardano is sitting at 2.02. Then 141 days later, Cardano peaked. And this was also towards the second market peak. It was closer to the second peak of Bitcoin. So on the first big peak, after Bitcoin peaked, mind you, 141 days later, Cardano's price peaked at $3.14 with Bitcoin at just 40.40% dominance, and ADA rose at 4.12%. And this wasn't even Cardano's peak in terms of market dominance. And I made a note here. I assume the dominance of Bitcoin and other lower ranked altcoins spilled into the top 15 of the alt market, basically saying that when all of this was transitioning, I believe that this was a period when a lot of investors pulled their money out of like lesser known or more risky assets because they weren't quite sure what was going on. And they started putting their money into assets they knew were a little more risk averse, such as Cardano. In my opinion, this isn't financial advice. I'm just giving it to you as I see it. Now, 68 days after Cardano peaked, Bitcoin peaked again on November 8th of 2021. And at this point, this is 68 days later, Bitcoin peaked again, higher than the first at 41.37% dominance. Original peak was at 52.48% dominance. This second peak, even at a higher price, was at a lower dominance than it saw in the first time. Cardano was sitting at 2.35% before the entire market crashed to new lows. Now, number 6, at multiple points over the cycles, ADA dropped to the half of a percentage range of dominance before taking off, meaning Cardano's dominance was at 0.5%, not even 1% of the total market dominance. And we've seen this, and I've looked at the chart. You can look at it over here. You can see it's happened multiple times. There was March 2020. Currently, we're sitting at 59%, so we're a little higher than average. But if we go all the way back, I mean, we can see, well, we don't want to go back before it was created, right? But you can see multiple points in time has Cardano's dominance been under 1%. So I'm not overly concerned with that. March 25th of 2020, 0.50%. Yet August 29th of 2021, it rose all the way to 4.25% in dominance. This shows a common occurrence with Cardano. However, Bitcoin's dominance continues to reset lower against meme coins and other nonsense. Basically, as there are more shit coins entering the space, it's all ultimately appearing to pull value out of Bitcoin's dominance over the long term than it's affecting things like Cardano and other altcoins, which I found really interesting, and it's a discovery that I made doing this video. March 25th, 2020, Bitcoin's dominance at 66.48%, while ADA was just at 0.50. However, currently, Bitcoin dominance sits at 51.83%, with ADA at a 0.59%, which tells me Cardano is less affected by the influx of shitcoins than Bitcoin is. You can look this stuff up yourself, folks. Now to the prediction. If we were to, in fact, go all the way back and we settled out here and we got to a $10 trillion market cap overall, Bitcoin rose its price up to around $230,000, give or take. Ultimately, that calculation means if we just reached 4% of the total market capitalization of $10 trillion, that gives us a $400 billion market capitalization over a circulating supply of 37 or 35.7 billion ADA, and that takes us to $11.19. $11.19. Sometime within this window of July of 2025 and September, the end of September of 2025, that's where I think the market cycle is going to peak. And now the interesting thing is, the major variables to this are how high does the overall market cap go? Now, I've shown the history of how the market capitalization has grown, how Bitcoin's market capitalization has grown, and it's grown exponentially over time. And it's in pretty much an always up sort of momentum for the most part. I mean, yes, we have our ebbs and flows, but every cycle, everything magnifies multiple times over did the previous cycle. However, the overall percentage is lower. So it's an interesting kind of situation where we're watching everything go up, but it's not going up necessarily as high as it did the previous cycle. And we calculated everything based off of fractions of previous cycles. And we're still at a $10 trillion market cap by the peak of 2025. And I honestly believe that some of the catalysts to this will very likely be real world assets being tokenized on the blockchain, likely in preparation of the 2030 cycle, more, not necessarily towards the 2025 cycle. We're going to see that narrative grow over the course of 2024, but I think we're just going to be planting seeds. I think we're going to be introducing new investment vehicles to the space that represent real world assets. I think we're going to see a transition out of meme coins, which is one of the reasons why I predicted previously that I can see Solana really enjoying its last market cycle in 2025. I think that's it for Solana. I truly do. And I'm not saying that as a hater, but if you look at the numbers and you look at the ecosystem and how it's basically all pushing forward based solely on a lot of weird stuff, and then the meme coin economy, I don't think the meme coin economy is going to last much longer than this cycle, because I think the narrative is ultimately going to change from that into new things. And the new things are going to be AI tokens that have a real world use case. Right now, a lot of it is speculation, but I think these AI tokens are going to end up with more significant real world use cases. We're going to see them more on some of the top tier blockchains like Cardano, Ethereum. Maybe we see some of that stuff on Solana. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think a lot of these major companies are going to want to launch projects that are really, really sensitive like that on blockchains known to fall apart or crash or just basically get locked up for a week. I just don't see that. And I know I sound like a hater and I don't mean to, but there are a lot of people out there being paid to push this Solana narrative, being paid directly. And many of them are not in the US and they're not disclosing it. Many of them have significant bags that they acquired back in the 2021 peak before everything fell and before a lot of the stuff happened with FTX. So they're still pumping those bags as best they can, hoping they get to a price point where they can exit out of a blockchain that I'm sure most of them know is just not realistic in terms of the grand scheme of blockchain technology, decentralized blockchains, who's controlling what, et cetera, et cetera. It's just not a narrative I think anybody with any brain cells would really buy into willingly unless they were being paid. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm an absolute trading card game fanatic. From Magic the Gathering, L5R, you name it, I've probably played it. I've never played Pokemon. I got to admit that. I've never played that. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is Wargrim, and this is coming very soon, likely within the next 60 days. Make sure you go to wargrim.io and click up here to join the wait list. This is a trading card game on the Cardano blockchain, unlike anything you've seen. This has been in development now for so long. I have been doing all of the art myself. I have a team from literally across the globe that have been building this out. You can check it out now. We do have internal beta testing and more. We have a lot of testing still to come. I just finished assets for over 250 cards for the first core set of the game, as well as 2 starter decks that everybody's going to be able to get. We're probably going to start giving some of this stuff out during Rare Evo coming up in August. So if you're there, come to my booth. You won't be able to miss it. And make sure you sign up, because we're going to be doing some fun giveaways and things related to Wargrim and other things that I'm a part of. Make sure you go to wargrim.io, bookmark it, join the wait list now. You're really going to love this game. Demos coming very soon.